Hello. We are a couple of therapists. My name's Scott.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
We are married, and we started doing this last week.
Doing what? Being therapists. We're new. We're brand new.
At what? At podcasting?
At
podcasting, we are. Okay, we've been a therapist for a while now, and we've been married for what? 5 years?
Yeah, coming up on that.
Points for me.
Good job.
So this sessions, we're going to talk about generally what mental health is. Okay, so pose you a question: what
Yep.
does mental health really mean, and how do we know when it's off?
Is that my question?
That is your question.
Okay. What does mental health really mean? I think, so when I hear that, I think that has to do with a person's mindset about how they're living. So the way they're thinking and feeling in their approach to the world. How do we know when it's off? Again, I think about how we're thinking and feeling tells us when it's off. Mm-hmm. So to me, mental health has a lot to do with our own self-awareness.
Yes. My metaphor comparison is with physical health. We talk about physical health. We'll go to the doctor, do preventative stuff. If we're sore or if we have an injury, we will go see a doctor to help us fix it or give us advice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why does mental health have a different approach? Doesn't make sense to me. To me, we should lump it all into health.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we should go to different people that specialize in certain areas like we do with our physical health, right?
Well, how many times have you had a client say to you, my family doesn't believe in anxiety?
Right. Right.
What?
Yeah, we feel it. How does it not exist if we feel something so strongly, right? If you have a septic wound on you, are you going to say it doesn't exist?
Right. That's gross, but
It
yeah.
is, but it's okay. They'll understand, won't you? So I try not to separate physical and mental health.
Well, I think like when we think about the two, we have to keep in mind that mental health is experienced through physiological sensations, right? So when I get nervous or angry or scared, my heart's going to start beating faster. That's real. I can feel that. Mm-hmm. You can hook me up to a machine and see that that's happening.
Yeah. Right. I use a metaphor when I'm talking about how people like to try to control their thinking.
Yeah.
Right? So I go to them, what if I hooked you up to a machine and the machine was similar to a lie detector test, but it measured any kind of fluctuations in your heart rate, anxiety, perspiration, and if anything changes, I'll press a button and you'll be electrocuted. I've yet to have a client say, I'm not going to be electrocuted. They're all going to be electrocuted. So how does anxiety not exist?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think we need the narrative maybe slowly changing, but I think we have a long way to go in terms of the stigma that comes with mental health. We've had clients, obviously, that have said there's certain shame that they're in therapy or their family's in therapy, mm-hmm. right? But if they have a bursitis in their hip for running too much, and that's an ongoing issue usually, do we say, oh my God, you got bursitis? Do we judge them for that?
Nope.
No. Do we judge them because they're getting treatment for that? No. So why is mental health any different?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I think too, for someone who is mentally healthy, right? They don't think of it in that term of I'm a mentally healthy person, because really they're just living their life.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
Right. It's the people who do it. We have a term for it. It's called worry well. Mm-hmm. You know, and these are just the people with kind of normal, everyday fears and anxieties, and that kind of tends to be who we might see in our office. And then, you can kind of have this decline in terms of severity all the way down. But like, we have to think of it on a spectrum.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
You go to the doctor for a cold that you might be over in a few days. You go to the doctor for cancer treatment, which is all the way on the other side of the spectrum, much more severe and intensive in terms of care.
Yeah.
We need to think of mental health the same way.
Yeah. And on top of that diagnosis, what does that mean? Right? You go to the doctor, half the time you cannot pronounce these things that you may be inflicted with, right? Or the virus that you're inflicted with. However, for the doctor, that maybe puts you in this path of treatment, what needs to happen. But other than that, I'm not sure diagnosis is this badge we need to carry with us.
Right.
Right? No one's running around saying, I have bursitis, I have a big sign, and they're using that as an excuse.
Do you have bursitis?
Bursitis is mean. It is mean. These bursitis
Is
pockets in your
hip hurting? You've like alluded to that.
I know.
But to that point, right? Like, if I go to the doctor because I have a cold, I'm not going to have a cold forever. The goal is to get over the cold.
Yes.
If I go to the doctor for cancer, right? Again, a longer term of treatment for sure, much more intense, but the goal is to cure the cancer, recover and heal from cancer. And I think we need to think of mental health in that same way. I have clients who tell me, I was diagnosed with depression when I was 14 and now they're 50. And I'm like, wow, your life must have sucked because you've been depressed for 36 years.
Yeah.
Like, we can't think of it like that, and honestly, if they're looking at their life, hopefully they weren't walking around feeling depressed for 36 years. But we really need to be thinking of not that I was diagnosed with this thing, right? I don't believe at all that mental health disorders outside of a few are ever chronic, lifelong conditions. And we need to get away from that idea.
Yep, we do. All right, ready to move on? Next question?
Sure. Hit me.
All right.
Not really.
No, I won't.
I'll hit
if
it
anyone. All right, why is it still so hard for people to ask for help?
I think we said it earlier, the stigma surrounded with it.
Mm-hmm.
We are told culturally, socially, from the time we're very, very young, that, muscle through, tough it out, rub dirt on it.
Yeah. We saw a t-shirt there
rub
last
dirt
week.
on,
Yeah,
rub some dirt on
yeah.
it.
I did. I rubbed it on the t-shirt.
I mean, you think about these messages that we get from the time we're very small, big girls don't cry, boys don't cry.
Right.
If you cry, I'm going to stop that or I'm going to give you something to cry about. It's like,
now,
I'm already crying.
What's the purpose of tears?
To show sadness, to release emotion.
But physiologically, what does it do?
Releases.
Why would our bodies secrete this liquid for no function? So there's a function behind tears that releases oxytocin, which is a love chemical, which helps us connect, which helps us emote. So isn't that a good thing? To cry? If you don't cry, tear ducts clog up, emotions stay in, and how's that going to work out?
That's really interesting.
I don't think anything.
I didn't know.
I didn't come up with it.
I didn't know.
I didn't do the research on this. Yeah.
Okay, so talk about. You say vulnerability is a superpower, right? You like to say that. So kind of thinking along that same line. If tears are something that release oxytocin, which is a chemical that promotes social bonding and connection, when we see someone cry, typically our first inclination is to go to that person and connect with them, soothe them, make them feel better, right? Certainly with our children, I have clients in my office who cry. And I give them the space
Yeah.
to let it out.
Yeah. Right.
Safe space to cry, guys.
And speaking of hitting people, if someone runs up to you,
Yeah.
yelling in your face,
Yeah.
tight, ready to wind up and punch you, are you going to welcome them with open arms?
No.
No. So if someone else comes up to you and starts crying, right, and is almost curling up in a ball,
Yeah.
which is a better way to connect with people?
Right. Like you're going, like, what is the matter? What is happening right now? Why are you crying? How can I help? That's what comes out of us naturally.
Yeah.
How can I help? What can I do?
Right. And we would not be here today as a species if we did not get along with other people. If we did not connect with other people, it would be impossible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what other reasons why is it hard for people to ask for help? The stigma,
I think judgment.
judgment, bring up vulnerability. I think a lack of probably bias overall.
Yeah.
They don't know, right? They don't have the information, especially in certain areas.
Well, how many times have you had somebody come in? Don't tell me a number because we don't count.
Yeah.
But a really common response I have had is, I've never talked to a therapist before. I don't know what to expect, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I'm like, hey, come in, have a seat.
Yeah.
What brought you in? Let's talk.
Right.
And so I think that.
Sorry, don't worry. I just want to make sure I'm in here.
Oh, that you're in here. Look at his pretty white teeth. Anyway.
It's a filter. It's very, very specific these days, these filters.
So I think we have this idea, because we don't know what to expect, right? The therapy office, we have these notions of what therapy is going to look like, maybe from, I don't know, what you've seen on TV.
Yeah, laying on a couch.
Right, laying on the couch, talking about your dreams.
Yeah, lobotomies, maybe. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean,
yeah.
Now that was a bad time. That was a bad period for mental health.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. None of us are proud of those times, but we definitely learn from them. But yeah, you're right.
I think people just don't know what to expect when they come in.
Yeah.
And two, opening up to a stranger, right? They think about how hard it is to open up to just people that they know. Then the idea of telling someone that you don't know all of your deepest, darkest things just feels totally overwhelming and foreign, right? Because we are told to keep things, right? We got to keep up appearances. You can't let people see these things.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times somebody has told me something on their first visit and they're like, wow, I've never told anybody that before in my life.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it also happens all the time that we get to their end of their first session and they're like, that wasn't what I expected at all.
Exactly.
Like,
so
no, it's
many
not.
times. And again, they can't explain what they expected.
Yeah.
Right?
I think they just knew they needed something.
Yeah. All right. Let's do one more question. One more topic.
I think I had one more answer to that one.
You did?
Why is it still so hard for people to ask for help? Oh, I was going to say, I think we have an idea that we have to be perfect.
Sure. And I think we need to ask, where does that come from, right?
This idea that
we have to be perfect.
We can't mess up.
Right. And parents that have that mentality or mindset without even knowing it at times, what are they doing to their children? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you want your children to ask you for help? Yet, parents can't ask for help. We have to model appropriate behavior, the appropriate way to go through life, right? But I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a lot of pressure, right? Perfect is a lot of pressure. It's unattainable. And, well, frankly, if perfect is your expectation, maybe the therapy office isn't a place for you because this is a place for growth.
Yeah. Remember there was a research done in the 80s,
I
90s.
screw up all the time.
She does.
Not at my job.
Wasn't there an ad on TV a few years ago about being a good enough parent? And there's research done in the 90s and stuff like that. But
Sure, maybe.
are you good enough?
Yeah.
That's plenty. You don't have to be perfect. No one does. All right.
Well, because we should be asking, who am I trying to be perfect for?
Yeah.
Why is that
Right.
their expectation of me?
Yeah.
Where does this even come from?
And we get into ego. What are we trying to prove? Blah, 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 blah.
Ooh,
Right?
that'll be another episode.
Yeah, that's another episode. All right.
All right.
Okay. Let's do, what's the difference between self-care and escapism?
Okay. Difference. Why is this shaking? Difference between
Struggling with this
self-care.
Trying to escape.
It's nodding
Trying to
along.
escape.
Self-care and escapism. I think self-care is intentional, functional. It's about turning inward and taking care of something that we know needs to be taken care of. This is just what I think. He might have a totally different answer. To me, escapism is I am avoiding something. Mm-hmm. So I think too, there's some duality to this, right? Because we can do the exact same thing, right? But what is the intention behind it? So I enjoy working out, going, running, walking, depending on how my knee feels that day.
Crawling sometimes. Crawling. Yeah.
So am I doing this because it's an act of self-care? It's an act of I'm doing this to clear my head. I want to be able to sort through my thoughts. I enjoy the way I feel at the end when I've accomplished something. I come out of it with this, I always feel this gratitude for my body, right? From like, wow, my legs took me that far, right? So for me, it's an act of self-care. Mm-hmm. However, when I say that the same thing could serve a different function, is it just, if it becomes this thing where it's, I just got to get out of the house. I just need to get away from these people. I'm just trying to avoid my life, my responsibilities, the people in my life, my own thoughts. Mm-hmm. Now it's serving something different. So I think that, to me, that's the difference, is what's the intention behind this thing I'm doing?
Yeah, yeah. And things simply put, defining those words, self-care is caring for yourself. When you're on a plane, plane's going to crash. What do they tell you to do first? Sorry.
Scream.
Someone has fear of flying here.
I get so anxious on planes. And we always I always like have to process it afterwards with him. I said, hey, like I was kind of white knuckling it there for.
And I give her the t-shirt, but did we die?
I have like strategies for making it through flights.
But what do they tell you to do with the oxygen mask?
I don't know. I've never been on a plane that was crashing.
Okay. But what do they tell you in the
Put your mask on first. Put your mask
Why
on.
do they say that?
And then
how are you going to save your children or anyone else next to you if you're dead?
Yes.
Logical, right?
Yeah.
Caring for yourself. Now, escapism is not inherently bad. However, what is that? Our behaviors that temporarily avoid, you said avoid.
Yeah.
Or relieve difficult thoughts, feelings, situations that we're going through. Now, is shooting heroin a healthy, temporary way to avoid pain? Probably not.
You said two things. They're healthy and temporary.
Yes.
It is temporary.
Right.
It is not healthy.
Right. Now, we seek to distract ourselves from those things, right?
Yes.
Now, why are we not accepting them first? Mm-hmm. Right? If we don't accept them first, how are we going to work through them? Right?
Okay.
Once we accept them, once we acknowledge it, have a plan for it, then we could say, I'm going to focus on this right now. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
right? But if we're saying, I'm going to stick my head in the sand, right? That relief is going to be very short lived, and it's going to come back in full force with you not having a plan, with you wanting to escape again when it comes back up,
Yeah.
right? So, escapism, i.e., distraction is okay as long as it's done in a healthy manner, but also as long as we're acknowledging, accepting what is going on with us, understanding it, and having a plan moving forward. Because how many times have I said, problems, oh yeah, I put it on my board today. Most of your problems are just unmade decisions,
Yeah.
right? So we got to have a plan before we start escaping, right?
Yes.
Right.
What are we? Well, now it depends on in what way are we talking
Well,
about escape?
Well, yeah. I assume, hopefully we
Well,
understand
maybe
what's
not.
healthy, what's not.
Maybe not. Any type of escape requires planning and thought.
It does. It does. I guess a matter of how that escape looks,
Okay.
right? One is, what's a healthy escape? What's a healthy escape? Isn't that a store? Wasn't that a store, Healthy Escapes? Or
I don't know.
no? Okay. I don't know. Making shit up. Oh, sorry. Making stuff up again here. There was
What's the function of self-care?
To survive. I mean, if we were going to really break it down,
Wow.
survival, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? What else?
I don't know. When I have a massage next Friday, it's not going to be about surviving.
Well, okay, but that's pleasure in the present moment, right? Right?
Sure.
Now, is eating food pleasurable?
Yes.
Why is it pleasurable? Why does it have to be pleasurable?
So we do it.
So we survive.
Yes.
Right? So food is rewarding. It always has been because that's what kept us alive. We're very, very finely tuned, whether God or evolution, whatever your beliefs are, right? We're meant to eat to survive, so food has to be rewarding, right? Being productive is rewarding. So there's a lot of things that are rewarding, right?
Yeah.
That are healthy too, right? Now, 21st century, our minds and our, I guess, the reinforcement parts of our brain don't know the difference between shooting heroin, which is taking a sledgehammer to a fly, versus saying, I'm going to go to the gym to deal with that stress, which is more like a fly swatter to the fly, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, matter of degree and spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. How extreme are we going to get with these things? Right?
Yeah.
So going back to what are healthy escapes or healthy distractions or healthy reinforcements to feel good.
But don't you think we need to be asking, why do I need to escape?
Yeah, escapes it.
What is
probably
happening in
not
my life
yeah.
that I need to escape from it?
Yeah. And escape and distraction are probably not the best words to use, but they're used in society, so we got to bring them up. But I think if we really want to be specific, is we got to be present and mindful.
Yes.
Right?
Well, okay, so going back to this question, right, now that we've kind of parsed it out a little, I think people will do things in the name of self-care
Yeah.
that are escapism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I've decided that instead of paying my water bill, I've been really stressed, and so I'm buying that new pair of shoes.
Yeah. Yes.
What?
And that's justification.
I
right?
decided that I'm calling into work today because I need a mental health day, and I don't have anything against mental health days, but,
Yeah.
and I'm doing it in the name of self-care, but there is no plan to address the stressful thing that is happening at work, whether it's have a meeting with boss, have a meeting with HR, have a meeting with your coworker, find another job, right?
Right.
We just keep putting something off, and we do it in the name of self-care.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think healthy escapism helps you cope and return to life feeling a bit more resourced.
Yeah.
Right. unhealthy escapism keeps you stuck, disconnected, and avoids real growth or any resolution.
Yeah.
Right? If this thing's not going to get resolved by, or making things worse by this behavior, well, that's a telltale sign, right? So it's kind of like using a fire escape, useful in a crisis, right?
Yeah.
But not meant to be where you live, right? Does that make sense? You don't want
like
to
you use it every day.
Yeah, you don't want a fire
This
escape
is how I get out of my
at your
apartment
house in
every
the
day.
suburbs. That'd be a bit weird, wouldn't it? Be a bit weird.
I don't know. Maybe if you're training for like
Well,
Ninja Warrior.
you're eccentric in a sense, so maybe you'll have one. I don't know.
I don't.
With your wind
no.
chimes, I don't know.
With my wind chimes.
Yeah. All right. Anything
All right.
else?
One more? We got time for one more.
One more. Okay. Let's see. What other questions?
Ooh, let's do number 4. Well, hold on. Let's do number 3. I want to ask you.
I haven't come up with one that often. All right. Sorry. Like they know. What's one mental health myth that drives us nuts, and what's the truth behind it?
Okay.
I don't know. I'll let you go. If you have one,
I was hoping you had one.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Okay, this is going to be a topic for another day for sure, but I'm going to put it out there because I like to plant seeds, and we need to think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I said earlier about mental health being chronic, and that or mental health disorder, like this stuff always being chronic, and if I'm depressed, I'm going to be depressed for the rest of my life, and I'm going to be anxious, for the rest of my life. You know what? That's going to be one of my myths. I'm not even going to go into medication right now because, like I said, that is a topic for another day. However, that people think that you're not supposed to have anxiety.
So that basically you're saying.
Oh, I'm
not
anxious.
Supposed to be fearful.
I'm anxious.
Right.
I'm anxious.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel anxious. Well.
Right. I hope I'm a little anxious about giving a big presentation.
Yeah.
Or a big monumental moment in my life. Why? It helps us prepare.
Yes.
Helps us plan, right? Anxiety is a lesser form of fear, right? Secondary emotion of fear. We all have fear. What's the purpose of fear?
Safety.
Right?
Guys, like when we say we like to boil this down to the nuts and bolts, guys and girls.
Yep.
And they, thems, whoever's watching.
Yeah.
But when we say we like to boil this down to the nuts and bolts, at the end of the day, we are just another animal on this planet, and our job is to stay alive.
Yep.
And all the other trappings of human life that are designed to make it easier are just that. Things designed to make life easier. But we are animals, and our job is to stay alive. And every single thing that happens inside of us that we feel is about survival in one way or another. And anxiety is about survival. We're just not good at assessing risk.
No, it's like this fire alarm, right?
Yes.
That is very overreactive, very sensitive. And sometimes we gotta fine tune that a bit, understand it a bit more.
Yes. That's why you get an email from your boss or your ex or the government, and like shit hits the fan. Yeah. I don't know if we're supposed to cuss. Anyway, and like you are responding to this email. Like a lion is chasing you, and you need to stay alive, right? You are like panicked with every fiber of your being. Your body is tense, your heart is racing, your mind is racing, your palms are sweating, you can feel the tension in all of your muscles, your pupils are dilated, you have tunnel vision, and it was an email. It was an email. And we respond to it like that big man-eating beast is chasing us. So that's my myth. Is that you're not supposed to feel anxious.
Hopefully we could continue next time about therapists giving advice. Okay? I do have air quotes here. All right.
Okay.
Bye.